Reap Green Solutions, and with me is Dave Blake, our Associate Director.
I think this is the button. Okay, thanks. With a recently approved reduction target of 80% by 2050, there'll be need for programs that are going to encourage people to decrease our carbon footprint within Waterloo Region. About 20% of those greenhouse gas emissions come from within the residential sector. And with this in mind, REAP brought together some renovators, manufacturers to work on an Enercam project to create deep retrofit options for existing homes. We looked at emerging technologies and innovative solutions to insulate the exterior of the older homes. It will be these types of collaborations with local people on the front lines that will be important as we work together to deal with climate change. This slide documents the impact of the work that happened in all of the homes in Waterloo Region. But since we're here in Kitchener, I really want to drill down to talking about what's happened in the City of Kitchener. For the past 2 years, from August 2016 until 5 days ago, there were incentives that were available to residents in the City of Kitchener that are no longer available, and that funding was provided through the province of Ontario. 225 homeowners worked with us to complete renovations on their homes. They each received on average $2,100 in incentives, and they invested more than $1.9 million locally on completing those retrofits. So here's what we're doing about the end of the incentives for Kitchener residents. We're calling on the federal government to establish a home energy incentive program together with other environmental organizations in Ontario. And we're also working with Kitchener Utilities to see how they can provide incentives for upgrades within their budget and with our support. Just want to say we've just completed our Zero Waste campaign and would be happy to report that there were 172 humans and 43 pets who participated in the Zero Waste Challenge this year.
So I get to say a little about the Rain Smart Neighbourhoods project, which we are really proud of in the City of Kitchener. There's a pretty neat story in your report about Laurie and Glenn and the project we helped them implement at their house. And what I think is neat is that they were so thrilled with the results that they went out in the pouring rain and made a video of the water flowing through the River Rock Channel and into the rain garden. And all you can hear is the rain. There's over 30 projects that have gone in the ground now with this project, and we're up to close to 100,000 litres of stormwater storage capacity installed in the two neighbourhoods of Lakeside and Mount Hope. We're proud of this groundbreaking work, both literally and figuratively, that we're doing with the City of Kitchener. The city is leading the country in its stormwater master plan and utility, and we are accompanying the city on this one piece of that, helping homeowners manage rain where it falls. The neat thing about this project is seeing how these projects multiply in neighborhoods as people watch what's going on around them, check out what their neighbors are doing, and follow suit. We're coming to the end of the 3-year Rain Smart Neighborhoods project now. We're working with city staff and looking for new opportunities and funding to keep that momentum going. So here's one example of the ways we can carry on this work. We were able to bring some funding to Kitchener for the first ever Depave Paradise project in Waterloo Region at Shepherd Public School last week. So you can see a great group there together of parents, teachers, students, and volunteers working together to rip up asphalt and reclaim green space. On a hot day at Shepherd School, when they measured the difference in temperature between the asphalt and a soft surface like wood chips, it was up to 15 degrees centigrade. That's a pretty big difference, and you can see how it would make a difference reclaiming that space, making it safe for nature play, and helping to recharge the groundwater and cool the schoolyard. It makes the yard healthier for the students and for the environment. So we hope to do more of these throughout the region.
So how can you help? Well, join us in calling on the federal government to help to establish a home energy retrofit program incentive for all people in Ontario, regardless of their heating fuel source or their natural gas provider. Another area where you can help support is a new project that we're leading in the region. In support of helping our community to meet the reduction target of 80% by 2050, we believe that we need a tool that will help people to understand their carbon footprint and what actions that they can take to reduce it. We're partnering with Project Neutral to bring this tool to the residents of Waterloo Region. It will give people a complete snapshot of their emissions, not just their home, but also their personal transportation, their food, and their waste. It will show you your total footprint and will also break it down by area. I would encourage you to go online and give it a try. I've provided you with a postcard with the URL on the back of it, or you can go to projectneutral.org/REAP, and you can find out what your number is. Mine is 19.5 tons, and my biggest area of improvement is my personal transportation. I wonder what yours would be.
Kitchener is a core funder of REAP Green Solutions, and I can't say enough about how much this core funding makes all the work you heard about possible. With this support, we go out and find the resources to bring programs to our community. So we want to say a very big thank you to all of the councillors and to the city for this support. And we'd also like to say a special thanks to the city staff that we get to work with throughout the year. Dan Chapman, Justin Rigman, Nick Golan, Claire Bennett, and the Kitchener Utilities folks, Michelle Campus and Greg St. Louis. Together, we are helping to make it possible for people in Kitchener to live more sustainably. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, probably should have mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, we're having some technical difficulties, so you won't be able to queue in. If you have questions of the delegations, you just have to raise your hand and then click in, okay? So start with Councillor Marsh when you're ready.
Thank you, and at the appropriate time, I'd like to move the recommendation.
Very good.
Okay. Great presentation, and thanks for sharing what your footprint, what was it? What your carbon footprint challenges are, and I hope, I didn't take the waste challenge. I didn't do it, but maybe keep doing it every year. I think it's a good idea. So I just want to know, what do you think is going to be the most impact going forward in our community? What area do you think our community needs to focus on the most in reducing our carbon footprint?
Well, close to 50% of our emissions are from transportation. So we're interested in the potential of Project Neutral to help us get everybody thinking about their personal transportation as part of that. Mm-hmm. So that's a big one. Buildings seem like a huge opportunity to us. We can't help but look at buildings. It's what we do. And so that's another one that I think is a real chance to improve.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And in your work, have you looked at some of the top barriers that stop people from reducing their carbon footprint through, through surveys or studies or?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, that's in part of really what the Project Neutral tool will help us, is to have those conversations to understand what those barriers are, mm-hmm. but really to sort of bring the people together in a collective, whether it's through their neighborhood group or through their place of work or their schools, to be able to have those conversations. There's all kinds of, the personal transportation, that's a big project to work on, and there's certainly all kinds of barriers to that. But a lot of it becomes sort of behavioral and planning, and to be able to have conversations and create that encouragement for others to be able to make those changes. I think that's really what's going to be important.
Great. Okay, great. Now, I always love hearing from REAP, from you, Mary Jane, and other REAP representatives. I just don't remember why last year we did not find a way to have the funding for REAP that is consistent each year with an annual minor increase, cost of living increase. I don't know why we don't have a way to make it multi-year funding that is not contingent on a presentation and a motion by council. So I'm going to work with staff over the next 2 weeks to see if we can find a way to, so that even if you want to come and present to us, that's great, but to not have the funding be contingent on a motion each year, other than at budget. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. I think Councillor Gazzola had a question.
Pardon?
Did you have questions?
Yeah, I have a number of questions.
Please.
I missed what you said at the start. What did you say about phones or something?
Oh, sorry. Yes, the queue system isn't working here. The screen isn't working. So it's just a raise your hand thing for this evening.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so apologies, it might not
Well, is it my turn?
It's your turn, yes.
Yeah, I have a number of questions. The The first one is, what impact does what the provincial government is doing, having canceled all those programs, what's the impact on your organization?
That's something we're actually trying to reflect and trying to get a clear sense and understanding of what that is. There certainly will be a decrease in the volume of activity that happens in the City of Kitchener while there isn't that same level of incentive, but we're not sure exactly what the quantifiable impact of that would be at this time.
What kind of funding do you get from the province right now?
As far as direct funding for the province,
yes.
we seek grants from provincial funders, where the Ontario Trillium Foundation or other areas as well, but we don't receive direct core funding from the province.
Well, on your financial report, you show grants, local, provincial, federal. So is there nothing from the province of Ontario per se?
Well, yes, there's the Trillium Foundation grant would be included as part of that.
Which is an agency of the province, but nothing from the province. And what do you get from the federal government?
The funding that we've received from federal government in the most recent year has been through funding of capacity. So Canada Summer Jobs, the Eco Action grants.
I've asked you this every year, but I don't see any funding here from our 4 rural townships. Where does that stand?
We do report to the townships, and we haven't asked. I'm just going to say it.
You haven't even asked.
We haven't asked.
So
I'd like us to have something that really relates directly to rural communities in order to do that. We have asked in the past when we had the Well Aware program. That was specific for rural communities.
Yeah. I've asked you this before, and I'm not sure what the answer is. Why do you deal with a March year-end? It seems that most of your funding is coming from the municipalities, and we operate on a December year-end. It makes it a little easier to sort of correlate funding. So.
Well, we don't get confirmation until the new year has started, and by then we've already had to make a decision about whether contracts are renewed or not. So it's because of when we hear from the municipalities, rather than when the municipalities can.
Yeah, but if your year-end was in the same as our fiscal periods, it would be a little easier to follow. But that's fine. I noticed on the financial report that we do have that salaries and benefits went up 14%. Does that mean new staff or?
It's all pretty contingent on project funding. So if we get a grant from the Trillium Foundation, for example, and we've got a project, then we've got to hire staff to implement it. So it's usually a good sign. It means more activity. It's all pretty much person power that makes it happen.
I see interest in bank charges. Do you have bank loans outstanding?
No.
Any loans outstanding? You don't give us a balance sheet, so it's hard to tell what your position is. For example, I see 2 years in a row where you've had a operating loss. So are you in the red overall or in the?
No, we have retained earnings that we are drawing from so that we can invest in program development and really work towards a balanced budget.
Okay, that brings me to my last question is, can we receive a copy of your complete financial statements as well as a copy of your 2019 budget?
Yes, the budget will be in March. We could have an early draft in January. And our financials, we'd be happy to give them to you. We're a registered charity, and they're also online at the Canada Revenue Agency.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Questions over here? I think Councillor Fernandez, when you're ready. You have to cue yourself in there yet.
It's my first time around the block, haha. Mary Jane and Dave, thank you for all the work that you've done over the years, because I think when I first saw you, it was at the Environmental Committee. As you've grown and changed, where do you see the biggest uptake coming from? in terms of the programs, are you still seeing the residents are the ones that are coming in for advice and they're taking on the rain gardens? Or are you having some success with businesses? Because you identified that buildings are one of the areas that we have a huge carbon footprint on.
For the most part, we leave the business side to Sustainable Waterloo Region, and then often go into businesses to offer lunch and learns to address them as homeowners or residents. So Dave will often be making presentations, lunch and learns, to different businesses, and he'll be talking about Project Neutral as we go forward. So in that way, we do connect with businesses. And on the homeowner side, I guess I'd say that with expanding our thinking to more sustainable living broadly, we've really seen new people coming into the REAP House for this wider array of workshops that we have and getting involved in different ways than we have before, and that's been great to see.
Okay, good to know. I certainly concur with Councillor Marsh's suggestion that consistent funding year over year is really what you guys need to have that core, and to have to stand up here, go to the environmental committee, sure that you've got the converted there, but to have to stand here every year is humbling, I'm sure, but also stressful. So I'm hoping that her conversations with staff will become successful and that we can see a continuum happening for you guys. Thanks for all that you've done over the years.
Thank you.
Thank you. Questions over here, anyone? Not seeing any further questions. I do not have any. I just thank you for your presentation.
Okay.
Any questions of staff? Councillor Gazzola? Sorry, you guys can have a seat when you're ready.
Okay.
Councillor Gazzola, when you're ready.
Yeah, why isn't this...
You have to queue in there, sorry.
Why isn't this brought when we deal with the budget? What are we doing tonight? We're not recommending that it be sent to the budget. We're saying that it's allocated. We're approving it. Is that the normal process?
Sorry, and who would respond to that? Mr. Eadman, you ready?
Through the chair. So this is part of the annual process that REAP does not have sustained funding, so council does make a decision on an annual basis whether or not to move this into the budget allocation. So unless a motion is passed otherwise, this is the typical process that we've gone through.
I'm not clear. What does that mean? Are we approving it tonight or what?
It's subject to the budget, so we're not approving it tonight.
We're not approving it.
No,
Are we referring it to the budget?
actually, the exact term is...
I'm reading the motion. It says
subject to.
Yeah, it doesn't...
So we can change our minds at budget, but it's kind of like a committee council sort of thing where
Okay.
we're send a message here and then we have the final say at budget
Just
time.
want to clarify that. Thank you.
Okay, no further questions. Any other questions of staff? Not seeing any comments? No comments. Been moved by Councillor Marsh. Those in favor? And that carries unanimously. Thank you very much. The only other item we have is the Community Grants Appeal Process Update. I don't believe staff is making any comments with respect to this item, so I would look for a mover. Moved by Councillor Singh. And certainly, you just have to queue in. Go ahead.
Sorry, I thought it wasn't working your screen. Okay. Oh yeah, so it's on the master thing. So the power. I realize this is the direction that council has given, and it's good that as part of the motion, staff have advised that they would be reporting back to council as to the effectiveness of this new process. Would we, and as part of that report, would the consideration of the effectiveness would be the opinion of staff, or would we gauge the opinion of the grant applicant, or through some sort of survey or engagement to see how they felt that new process was?
Mr.
May?
Through you, Mr. Chair, certainly this is our recommendation is based on the fact that Council first directed it. We've tried it. Staff found it to be both an efficient and effective process. We have not conducted a survey. There were only a handful of appeal groups. We, at the end of the day, think for efficiency it's the right way to go. We have not heard any complaints from either councillors or community grant recipients.
So would staff need to be directed, or can you take it under advisement that as part of the report, through this year process, if there were complaints, that those be communicated back to council or as part of the report, so we can realize that there are no issues, at least at this point?
Yes, so through you, Mr. Chair, just to be clear, it's not our intention to report back next year on this. The reference is that you've already asked us to do this work and report back. This report in front of you fulfills that obligation.
I'm sorry, I was looking 2018 as 2019.
So just to be clear, having said that, staff, and this is something that we'll have to discuss with council through the business planning process, but staff is considering whether or not we need to conduct some level of a review of our overall grants process, and so I think that would include the kind of community engagement that you're referencing.
Okay, I think that would be appreciated then, by all seeing that we are still inclusive and willing to improve on the process.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Questions, Councillor Marsh?
Thank you. I didn't hear exactly what Mr. May said about the review of grant processes. Can you just say it again?
So one of the things that staff have been discussing for the past couple of months now, and we will have to discuss this with council as we build the next business plan, is whether or not we want to engage in some level of a review of our community grants process. We have found a number of opportunities for efficiencies, a number of ways that we can potentially tighten up and strengthen language in the policy to make it easier and clearer for community groups. And so we may be coming back with a recommendation to complete that work.
Okay, great. And what's the timeline on what you expect when would that take place?
So assuming the council was to prioritize that within the corporate business plan, I would hope that it would be done sometime in 2019. Okay, great. And then we're coming back to, I have another question just about the recommendation. You said that there were no complaints, but wasn't it explained to everyone involved that the motion to make this appeal process staff-based was really around depoliticizing the process for an election year? Wasn't that the context in which it was explained? So my recollection is that's how the motion was originally drafted, but council made a number of amendments to remove or certainly downplay that language, so I don't believe we actually told community groups that. We simply said that you had directed staff to take on the appeal for this year. And I can assure you that these community grant recipients are not afraid to raise issues or complaints with us, regardless of council's position on something, and we've heard nothing today. Okay. Yeah, it's surprising to me that there was no pushback or people asking about that further. So through you, Mr. Chair, I like to think it's because the process that we put in place was actually easier for grant recipients and appellants. We made it so that there was much clearer criteria so they knew what their appeal was going to be considered on. We put a page limit to it so that people didn't think they had to write 50 pages. And one of the things I've heard over my years in this role is community groups were really nervous about coming and presenting to council. And so by removing that, I think we made the process easier for them. Okay, thank you.
Okay, questions? Not seeing any more questions. I would be supporting this as well. It's been moved by Councillor Singh. Those in favor? Oh, sorry. Question, Councillor Gazzola? I have a comment. Oh, comment. Pardon me. When you're ready.
Yeah, I won't be supporting this because I just don't like the direction it's moving into. I don't like processes that have no opportunity for appeal. They're closed processes. We do that now with site plan control was handed over completely to staff many years ago, and it's an area where a great deal of the public get involved in, but council has no bearing on it, have no decisions. This to me is another area I'm not surprised people haven't complained to the people who are making the decisions. You're not going to complain to the hand that feeds you. I won't be supporting. I can imagine what the feeling is around the council chamber, so I won't hold up the process.
Sorry, I also have a comment. I also am reluctant about this recommendation, but I am hopeful that a review of the grants process in this term of council and hopefully in the first year will result in some improvements. I'm also interested to look at whether or not there might be room for us to increase the budget more than just on a very small basis, less than 2% each year. I would like us to look at the growing population and try to tie some of the increases to percentage of the population rather than just cost of living increases. But with that, I will support it at this time, but I wish that, I'm really looking forward to seeing how we might improve it even further. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fernandez?
Yeah, I was of the impression originally that this was only for the election year, and thought that may be why we hadn't received any complaints. I realize that it's probably good to depoliticize the process to some degree, but I think that it's probably important to have at least some of these groups, maybe if they're not coming to appeal, but at least to come to council, give us a sense of what they've done with the money that we've given them. I know that we do that with the community improvement grants that the Environmental Committee gives out. I know it's not as big an amount as the tens of thousands of dollars we give to all these small community groups. But if it's just going along, and I guess in a way it's a little bit contrary to what I was saying about REAP, because I'm saying, they shouldn't have to come, but some of these small groups, I think it starts to get very ambiguous as to what are they spending their money on, where is that money going. Yes, sure, it's clear if it's a small theater group, or if it's like our judo athletics, we know where that money is going. But I think it would be nice to hear from some of these groups as to what their experiences have been and how they're helping the community. Certainly when we have appeals, boy, they should come in here very, very passionate. Maybe we'd like to see some of that passion, not just because they're appealing, but because they want to share some good news with us.
Okay, anyone else comment? Not seeing any. Okay, we'll take the vote. Again, as moved by Councillor Singh. Those in favour? Oh, recorded vote's been called. Recorded vote. Does it work is a good question. I think it will work. It's just I won't be able to see. The old-fashioned. You do the old-fashioned recorded vote too. Those in favor? And opposed? And the motion carries. Okay, that concludes Finance and Corporate Services Committee. Councillor Singh, do we need to wait? We do need to wait until 7 p.m. before we can continue, correct? Okay, we will recess and we'll see everyone at 7 p.m. Thank you.